All right guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about an interesting subject that will affect a lot of you guys in the truck world. We're going to talk about used trucks. Now here at Quality Trucking Equipment, we focus mainly on building new trucks. And so that's mostly what we have for sale. We don't do a lot of used. About the only used we get is trade-ins. We don't build any used chassis. We don't take any used chassis and put new hooks on. We've done a little bit of that over the years, but we focus primarily on the new units and take a few trade-ins. So I just want to take a few minutes to talk about a used chassis and what you as the buyer should be looking for, how we do things here at Quality Trucking Equipment, and then some of the things that you can look for when you go out and look for a used hook lift truck. I get calls quite regularly that guys say, I'm not buying a new truck. I'm not paying that crazy price for a new truck. I only buy used. And you know what? I totally respect that because I'm a used truck guy. I buy most of my equipment used. I've bought very little new over the years. I enjoy that market tremendously. But what I want to talk about is if you're not willing to pay the new price, then here's what you should expect when you go buy a used truck. So let's take a look at this truck right here. We just took it on trade last week on Wednesday. So this truck was hauling trash up until Tuesday afternoon, and it came up here Wednesday, and he traded it on a brand new Mack. This is a 2018 Kenworth T370. It has 250,000 miles on it. This truck has been used, it's been worked. The only thing that we did to it was give it a wash job. That was it. A wash job and took the lettering off. You know, it would be great to bring this thing in the shop and go through it from front to back, but then we'd have to ask more for it. We don't have time right now to do that. Our shop is jam-packed full of builds. December is the busiest month of the year for us. Everybody wants to get their stuff in before the end of the year, so we don't have time to do that. Basically, we got time to give it a good, quick detail, and we're gonna put it back out in the market, but we're gonna be very upfront with our customers of what they're getting with this truck and the history that we know about this truck. We actually sold this truck back in 2020 when it was 2 years old with 75,000 miles. And this customer's had it for the last 4 years. The only reason he wanted to upgrade was he said the biggest thing was for a tax write-off. His driver loved the truck and he loved the truck. It's been an excellent truck for him. He said he's had basically no issues at all and it's done very well for him, but it was time to upgrade, so he was ready for a new truck. A Kenworth T380 today, a 2025, is selling for $180,000. Somewhere right around there, give or take. This truck here, we advertised it for $69,900, so basically $70,000. So if you're not willing to buy a new truck, that is the price difference that you got right now. A new truck does not have near the risks. You have a little bit of risk, but it's under warranty. So very, very little risk on a new truck. A used truck, every single time you purchase a used truck, there is a risk that you as the buyer take that many times the seller has no control over because it's a used truck. It's been worked hard and anything can happen in the first 30 days, first week of you owning this used truck because it's used and used equipment breaks down. Yes, I know new does too, but at least you have the warranty. I mean, look at some of us. Look at me. I've got 200,000-300,000 miles on me and I've lost all my hair. I'm getting gray hair. You know, I'm starting to age. The other night I went out with my boys and played hockey. As a young fella, I loved playing hockey. It was my favorite sport and I was pretty good at it. But wow, I was surprised. I'm not as good as I used to be. Not near as good. Still pretty good, but not like I used to play at all. So, you know, we all slow down with age and that's how trucks are. They start having leaks. They start having check engine lights come on. And this truck, you know what? The check engine light comes on intermittently. The customer told me that. He was very upfront. We have a guy coming up from Indiana today to look at it, and I put right in my ad, check engine light blinks off and on. It's been like that for 3 years. You know, we could probably spend a week chasing that. It might be something very simple, or you could spend days chasing that check engine light that flashes on and off. So we're gonna just sell it as is, like that, be very upfront with the customer. Okay, so let's say you're going out to look at a used truck. Here's some pointers and some things I want you to look for when you look at any of our trucks or any used trucks from any dealers. Now, remember this. I'm gonna call out myself and any other used truck dealer out there. We have the ability to take a very ugly truck and make it look pretty good. It's actually not that hard. You can take a truck that's been beat up in the field, scratched up, faded, dirty, and not put a whole lot of time and energy into it and make it look a whole lot better. So just remember that. It's not that hard to do that. So sometimes when you go look at a used truck, you think, wow, that looks good. But you know, a little bit of washing and a little bit of wax goes a long ways in making a truck look good. Here's what I want you to look for. So I'm gonna tell you a quick story. It really hit home with me. I have a good friend, and he has a fairly large fleet of trucks. He buys all his trucks brand new, and he trades them in as soon as they hit 100,000 miles. You know, it's a system that works great for him. He has the finances and the money to do that. But here's what he told me. He said, I trade them things in every 100,000 miles. He said, I don't do anything to them. He said, they're lucky to even get an oil change in that 100,000 miles. To me, that's absolutely terrible. That is horrible. As an owner-operator, you should not be doing that. Unfortunately, there's people out there that do that. They just want to run the wheels off of them, and as soon as they hit that certain mileage, it's time for a new truck. You, as the potential buyer of this used truck, have no idea on any of that. You can ask for the history, all the maintenance records, but a lot of these guys that run a small fleet, 1, 2, 3 trucks, they change the oil themselves. They don't have any records of when that truck was in. They don't record nothing. And I don't blame them. They have a small fleet. They bring them in on the weekend, they change the oil, they put the sticker up there in the corner, and in 10,000 miles, it's back in for an oil change. So, you know, if you go out and say, I want all the maintenance records on that truck since it was new, chances are you're probably not going to get them because we don't have them. Customer doesn't have them. So again, remember what I said about risk? That's a risk that you take. But remember, if you're not willing to pay $180,000 for a brand new truck, this is the risk you take. And many times the risk works out. But there's horror stories of a customer bought a used truck and then something major broke. And now he's mad at the guy that sold him the truck, and the seller has really no idea, knowing that that engine could blow up, the transmission could go out. Now, yes, there's dealers out there that bring a truck in with a known issue and do everything they can to hide it. You hear stories about it's got an engine tick, so they drain the oil and they put really heavy oil in it to hide that engine tick. There is dealers out there that do that, but for the most part, I think a lot of these truck dealers try to run an honest business and be upfront with the customer. But remember, there's a risk, and if you're going to take that risk in buying a used truck, it might happen to you. But here's some things for you to look for when you go and look at your used truck. Just look at the overall appearance of the truck. Has it been taken care of? And what I mean by that is it dented, scratched, faded, and just ugly looking? That tells you a lot how the customer took care of the truck. One thing that I often look for is the bumper. Take a look at this bumper here. As far as I know, I believe that that is the original bumper that this truck was built with, and it looks good. It's not bent up, it's not all beat up. There's this little piece of metal is bent, but that's a very thin piece, but the overall structure of the bumper is still looking good. And that tells me that he had careful drivers. He didn't have people that was backing into things and hitting things. I would believe the fenders are original. They're not all beat up. Still a good looking fender. The aluminum wheels, they're not bad. They need a good shine. They haven't been shined probably since new, but you could still bring them wheels back to life. The cab, very little damage on the cab. The only thing that I know of is this fender right here. That's the only blemish on this truck. And that's just some fiberglass repair. And you know what? That can happen so quickly and easily on a used truck with that kind of mileage on. So I would give this truck the overall condition as decent. I believe that the company took care of it. Another thing to look for is the seat. And I don't even know how this seat looks, but look at it. That is a nice seat yet. It's not ripped, torn, shredded. Look at the steering wheel. The steering wheel is not all worn out. Trucks that have a lot of age and didn't get taken care of, the steering wheel is worn, looks ugly. Those are just some things to look for. Another thing is tires. If you go look at a used truck and it has all brand new tires on, well then you don't know what to look for because it's got new tires. This truck has used tires on the front and back. You can look at a tire and you can tell if there's issues with the front end by how the tread is wearing. The tread on this tire is very, very nice and even. If it's out of alignment, the inside of the tread could be worn way down, or it could be worn very uneven. Let's say you got bad kingpins, bad tie rod ends. That's all gonna show up in the tires. Now these tires are good, but they're not new. You can tell a lot by a used truck if you look at the tires on the front and on the back. Look for uneven wear, and that tells you, you know what, there's a problem somewhere. If your inside tire has really strange wear patterns, it could most likely be the wheel bearing. Loose wheel bearing does that to trucks. The rear axle could be out of alignment, but often it's a sign of a wheel bearing that's starting to fail when you have uneven tread. So those are some things to look for. Look at the windshield. If it's got a lot of cracks and chips in it, that tells you he was running in pretty rough conditions, and good visibility wasn't important to him. I hate driving a truck that's got a big crack across it. It's a distraction to the driver. So those are things to look for. So maybe you're not comfortable going to look at a used truck and finding potential problems with that unit, or at least knowing what you're getting. Here's something you can do. You probably have a trusted friend that's a mechanic. Take him along. You know, you probably don't even have to pay him that much. $100, $200, take him along and let him look at the truck. Now, here's what I will tell you. They think that you're not getting your money's worth out of them if they don't find a whole list of problems. So they're literally gonna go and pick the whole truck apart from front to back. You might think, wow, this truck's got all kinds of problems, I cannot buy it. So that's my only red flag with taking a mechanic along, is he might wanna just pick the whole truck apart, and then you might not end up buying it because he found everything wrong, because that's just how mechanics are. They are trained to look for problems and fix problems. But taking a good friend along that understands the mechanics, he'll be able to give you a good evaluation of the truck. Now here's something that people ask us, well, I want to take an oil sample and send it in and get it tested to make sure that the engine's good. Well, you can do that, and we've pulled oil samples for customers. Sometimes they got a fresh oil change, so that's not even possible. It wouldn't do you any good to send that in. We sell our trade-ins very quickly. We don't hang on to them. We try to price them where they move fast. And so if you want to do an oil sample, you're probably looking at it 3-4 days to a week minimum to get the results back. Well, probably by then we're gonna have the truck sold. I don't know that I really recommend that, but if you wanna really know how that engine's doing and the oil hasn't been changed, yeah, send in an oil sample. You'll know very quickly. They'll test for all the contaminants that are in the oil, antifreeze and bearing wear and all that shows up. It is actually a good thing to do. Now, talking about that, a used truck, you're gonna have repairs, you're gonna have maintenance, you're gonna have things to fix that you didn't think about or that you didn't know about. If you're going to do that, who's gonna fix the stuff? Is it you, or are you taking it to a shop? If it's you that's gonna fix it, well, there's a certain amount of satisfaction that comes out of, you know, taking a used truck and making it so much better, doing the work yourself. I am that guy. I love taking a used truck and going through it. And, you know, there's a wheel seal that's damp, changing the wheel seal. There's brake pads that are low, changing the brake pads. But you're giving up your time when you do that. You're giving up time for your family. You're giving up time that you could be running a truck, hauling dumpsters and making a profit. So those are the things that you got to think about if you're going to buy a used truck. You're going to have more downtime with the used truck. That's just the cold hard reality. You can't get around that. Used trucks are great if you're getting into the business and you don't want to go all in. Look at a used truck. It could be a very good option. But remember, when you go buy a used truck, there's going to be some things that you probably can't get. Maybe it doesn't have the correct horsepower that you're looking for. Maybe it doesn't have a differential lock. Maybe it doesn't have an exhaust brake. Maybe it doesn't have the tarp system that you're looking for. Maybe it only has a fixed hook height. You know, you need the adjustable 3654. Maybe it can't haul the containers that you're looking for. Many times when you go buy a used truck, you're gonna end up looking a long time to find a truck that has all the specs that you want. Maybe you don't care at all, that's great. But a lot of people have very specific things that they want, and then they spend 6 months ripping and tearing across the US looking at trucks, possibly getting lied to by a dealer that didn't know his product and didn't give the right information, and he ends up with a truck that he doesn't really like. And I've had that happen. I was selling a brand new truck to a guy back east, and I Suddenly it went cold on me. Finally, I got a hold of him and he said, oh, he said, I found a used truck. And he said, I decided to go that route. It was a lot less than yours. And, you know, 2 weeks later, he called me up and he was really, really upset. He said, it doesn't haul the length of containers that I'm looking for. He said, I thought it did. The dealer lied to me. It's not the truck I want. And he ended up buying a brand new truck from us then. So don't put yourself through that hassle. Make sure you know what you're getting. Make sure the hoist is going to haul the containers that you're looking for. Make sure the hook height is going to work with your dumpsters. And make sure that the truck will perform like you're looking for. If not, go buy a brand new truck. And a lot of them things will be taken care of. So I'm not against used trucks. There's a lot of value in used trucks, but just know what to look for and know that you might have some disappointments or surprises in your first week, 2 weeks, or a month in business. I'll never forget the story of a box truck I sold years ago, and it was a truck that we had actually bought and used. We bought a bunch of product, a bunch of equipment in another shop about an hour from here, and we hauled multiple loads with that truck, and it performed flawless. A guy from California flew in, looked the truck over, absolutely loved it, jumped in it, made it 1 mile up the road, and something went bang in the engine. A push rod jumped off, and it just rattled and terrible, terrible noises. And it ruined the engine. You know, the customer, thank God, was very understanding. We towed the truck back here to the shop. We found another engine. We put it in. The customer actually stayed here in town while we quickly did the swap. And it all worked out good, but you know, it was a lot of expense on our part. And the customer's very understanding. You know, it would have been sad if it would have happened halfway back to California and he'd have been out in the middle of nowhere. You know, it would have turned into a real fiasco. What do you do with the truck? Whose fault is it? You know, we were able to take care of him, get him back on the road, cost us a lot of money. That's the risk we take when we take a used truck, and that things could happen. And it's a risk that you have to take when you buy a used truck, is that stuff can happen. I think this truck here is a really, really good used truck. I believe the guy took good care of it. I think he did his maintenance by all appearances. And he had almost no problems with the truck the whole time he had it. And he simply was upgrading because he wanted to save on taxes, which a lot of guys do when they make money. They upgrade to a new truck so they don't have to pay income tax. So this is a good truck. I believe it's going to sell quickly. It's going to go to a home, and that new owner will be very happy with it. Those are some of the things that we run into when we're selling used trucks. So, all right, guys, there you go. If you don't want to buy new, used is an option, but just know what you're getting into. Get out there and haul that trash, whatever works best for you. Thanks for watching.